So once it's finished creating an account, you'll land on what's called the launch page. So if you've worked on models before, you'll see them here, the ones that you've saved previously. But what we want to do is to create a new model. So up at the top left, you want to create a blank space to come up with creative ideas for the project. So you hit create new, and it will come up with 3 options. So say we were working in the USA, they use the imperial measuring system. So they use feet and inches, and that includes in architecture. So all architectural drawings in the US come in feet and inches. But in the UK, we use the metric system. So you can choose either meters or millimeters. For ease, I'm just going to pick meters. We're not going to be designing anything so small that it needs that level of detail. And when you hit OK, it'll open up and you'll have a brand new world in which to model. And the only thing that's in it is this person that loads in to begin with. So that person is put in the model there to help you to help you understand a little bit more about the scale of the things that you're designing in SketchUp. Now, on the left-hand side, we've got this toolbar, and this is where we're going to be doing most of the. This is the main space that we're going to be selecting different tools from to create and edit all of the different things that we're creating in SketchUp. So I'm going to run through some of these tools just to give you an impression of how they're used. The first one is the default tool, which is this one, which is the mouse. It looks like a mouse pointer, and it's the select tool. That really simply allows you to click on anything that's in the model. So I can click on this person here, and it highlights them and shows the area that they sit in. And I can then click anywhere else on the screen and it deselects them. So when you've got lots and lots of items and lots of different things that you created on screen, you can use that tool to select different ones. The second tool that you're going to be using all the time is the one right at the bottom here. So this is called the orbit tool. So when I click on that, it comes up with a range of different sub-menu items that you might want to use alternatively, but the orbit one is going to be the one we're going to be using all the time. And that simply allows us to click on the screen, and as the name suggests, we can then orbit around different shapes to see the world from different angles. So the default view shows our little person here, and then we might want to view them, and the person actually is set to follow the screen, so they're always going to be looking at you, but it allows you to look at different shapes. There are a couple of other tools you can use here. You can use this pan tool, which allows you to grab and then move around, so you're not orbiting, you're just shifting the view from up and down and left and right. And then you can use this tool to zoom in and out. But it's also very helpful if you've got a mouse or a trackpad. You should be able to zoom in and out simply using scrolling up and scrolling down with your mouse toolbar, or with 2 fingers on your keypad. So the next tool we're going to want to look at is this erase tool. So we will be creating lots of things, but sometimes you're going to create stuff that you might not want to keep. The erase tool is a simple way you click on an item, or you select an item rather, and then you click on it, and that should delete it. And what you may think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So along the bottom, there's an undo and a redo tool. So we're going to click undo to bring our person back. But if you want to delete delete an item much easier than going over here and grabbing the eraser tool, you can simply hit backspace. So backspace or delete on your keyboard, and that'll get rid of whatever it is you've selected. We then obviously will want to create some new items. So there's a few different ways you can do this. The most kind of detailed way of doing that is to use this tool, the line tool. So that allows you to pick an area in your model and to basically create new lines. So they're simple lines with only one dimension, and you can see that if I drag along this direction or this direction, it highlights as red or green. And you can see, if I deselect, you can see this blue, green, and red shape here that's next to our little figure, and that notes the axes. So the axes are the kind of left, right, and up directions that exist in any 3D model. So you can see the blue one is points up towards the sky, and then the green ones point 90 degrees to one another. And they allow you to tell kind of what direction you're facing in and allow you to orientate different shapes to one another. So we could create a rectangle using the draw tool. So we select it, we pick a point on the floor, and then we want to draw for a certain distance in the green direction, and then we want to turn 90 degrees, which then takes us along the red direction. We want to then go back along the green direction, and you can see when you get in line with the shape over here, it creates a kind of a dotted line to tell you that you've created the shape that has the same length on each side. And then when you click back on your original point, that finishes the rectangle, but it also fills it in. So you've created a 2D shape on the ground that has so it's filled in. So it's a bit like drawing, say, a rug on the floor. But obviously, no shapes in the real world are completely flat or completely 2D. So at the moment, it's a bit like a piece of paper, but even a piece of paper has a little bit of thickness. So we want to give it a bit of height, so we want to take it off in this blue direction as well. So the next tool we're going to use is this one here. It's called the push and pull tool. So that basically allows us to select a shape that we've created, a 2D shape that we've created, and when you hover over it, you can see that it sort of is highlighted with a kind of blue dotted pattern. So that lets you know that you've grabbed your shape, and when you click on it, you can then go up the way, and you'll see that you've created now a 3D shape, a big box instead of a 2D rectangle. And you can make that any height you want. So we'll try and make it about the same height as our character here, which seems to be, you can see in the bottom right hand corner down here, it gives you the distance that you're drawing. So this person is around about 1.75 meters tall. And then we can grab our orbit tool again. So if the orbit tool isn't selected here already, you just click here where the tool is, and it will come up with the little sub menu. You click orbit, and then you can rotate around, and you can see that we've created a really big cuboid shape, much bigger than the person we have here. And that's how you create kind of simple 3D shapes. But you don't have to draw the shapes with the pencil tool, the line tool every time. There's a series of pre-made tools that allow you to draw some shapes much more quickly. So we could create a rectangle by clicking on this tool, picking rectangle, picking your first point, and that automatically creates a rectangle of this shape. So let's make something that's quite long and maybe not as thick. And then we're going to do, again, take the push and pull tool, and then we're going to make that a bit taller. So that's kind of like a wall shape. And then another example of a shape that you might want to create, if you click on the shape tool again, you can create a really simple circle. So you grab the circle tool, you click the point that you want to be the very center of that circle, and then you drag until you've created a shape. And then you click again, and that will create the circle of whatever radius that you want it to be. And again, let's make this, maybe you pick the push and pull tool, and we'll make this a little bit shorter, so we'll make that this size. So now we've created 3 different shapes in 3 different ways. So we use the line tool to draw a rectangle and extrude that up the way. Then we use the rectangle tool to create this more like, thinner wall-like shape. And again, we use the push and pull tool to lift it up. And then we use the push-pull tool to create, we created a circle with the circle tool, and then we use the push-pull tool to lift it up. You can also, though, once you've used the push-pull tool to create a shape using the height on the floor, you can also pick any side around it and make it taller and shorter, longer or thinner using the push and pull tool. So we can make this really thin. What you can't do though is push and pull on any curved shapes. You can only do it on flat shapes. So a flat surface here, the circle, you can pick that up and push it down like this and make it taller or shorter depending on how big you want it to be. So once we've created some simple shapes, you can see that by default they're created just as simple white objects in a kind of green background with a sky above it. But obviously, for our design for a corner for Johnstone, as we spoke about before, we're really interested in creating something that's maybe a bit more bright and lively on the site than is there at the moment, which is kind of a lot of kind of shrubs and things that have been kind of dumped on the site. So we're obviously going to want to use some colors and textures. So that's where we're going to want to use this tool here. It's the third one down, and it's called the paint tool. So when we click on the paint tool, on the right hand side, a new menu is going to open up, and it's going to show you a whole bunch of different colors. By default, it shows the colors that already exist in your 3D model. So we can see our person here, and you can see on his shirt, they've got some green and kind of mustardy colors on a kind of maroon shirt with a bright red scarf. So you can see that all those colors already exist in the model, but we don't want to be limited to just those colors. So you can see the little search icon, the little magnifying glass here. So you can browse a whole range of different colors and textures that exist already in the model. So say for example, this big cube shape we've created here. Let's say for example, we want to make that out of brick. So you can pick the brick cladding and siding category of textures. You can pick the brick texture, and then you can use the paint bucket tool simply to paint on that texture onto the shape. But all it will do at the moment is it'll paint on one side at a time. So you'd have to very carefully go around the whole model and click onto every side. So there's a way that we can paint the whole thing and select the whole thing very simply to save you having to go and very painstakingly paint on every single side of your shape. So we can use the select tool, and we can drag a box to select the whole of the shape like this. And then when we pick our paint, again, we pick the paint texture, the brick texture, and we can use the paint tool. And this time when I deselect and I use the orbit tool to rotate around, I can see that we've painted the whole thing. There's other ways of doing it. If you've got lots and lots of shapes and you don't want to select, there's some say shapes that are behind here and you don't want to drag and select lots of different shapes, you can click on this shape and you'll select one item. But if you double click, what it'll do, you can see, is it selects all of the edges around the face that you've tried to select. So, and if you click 3 times, so you treble click, it'll select everything. So it'll select the whole shape that face is connected to. And then this time, so say we want to make this big wall out of concrete, we can say asphalt and concrete options, and we're going to pick this kind of mid-grey concrete. And then when you click on the texture, the paint tool is selected, and you can click it, and you can, when you select something else, you can see that we've created a thin concrete wall. And then for our final shape, we can again click 3 times, so 1, 2, 3, and it selects the whole shape. And this time we're just going to make it a simple color, so we'll make it this nice yellow color. So we've made a big yellow block that is that's a kind of circle that's been extruded. If this tool palette on the right hand side is kind of getting in your way, you can just click on the top right here and the arrow moves out of the way. The one last thing that we're going to do before we have a look at creating designs for the site in more detail is we're going to look at how to create groups. So each of these walls or these 3D elements is made up of lots of different faces and shapes. But if I select one of them, I may want to move that shape around. So if I select one of the faces, I can use this tool, which is the move tool, and when I select that, I can take it, but you can see it's only selecting and moving one element, and that starts to make the shape kind of funny shapes, and it's not particularly helpful. So I'm going to hit escape to undo that. So what I want to do instead is to turn this shape into a group. So group all of the different elements, all of the different faces together, so that it's easier to pick that up and move it around and modify it to make it the way I want it to look. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of the elements of this middle shape. So I'm going to click 3 times, select it all, and then what you want to do is you want to right click with your mouse or your trackpad, and you can see that a little window pops up with lots of different options for things that you might want to do, and we want to make it a group. So hit make a group, and now when I click on this, it selects the whole thing, So when I now pick the move tool, I can move it around without picking just one of the surfaces. It moves everything all at once. I'm going to do the same then for this element here, the kind of yellow tube that we've created. Right click on it, and I'm going to create a group. So as I sort of showed there, we can now move these elements around. So there's lots of different ways you can move them. You can grab the move tool, and that's simply, you grab it and you can simply move it around the screen. But you can also use the rotate tool. So if you wanted to rotate the shape that you've got here, it comes up with a compass shape. So now we can use this compass shape, and we basically click on the shape and the point we want to grab, and then you click again, and you're then kind of holding on to the shape and you're rotating it around the axis of the compass. So we figured out how to create some new shapes, how to give them some texture, how to group them together so that they're easier to use. But now what we want to do is actually have a go at using these shapes and creating shapes in a real version or a model version of our site in Johnstone. So we're not going to spend a few hours in this video creating a site model of Johnstone from scratch. That would take a while. So instead, New Practice have already created, as part of our design process, created a 3D model of the site in Johnstone that you can load directly into this SketchUp model. So we're going to get rid of these prototype shapes that we've created. So you just select them all and hit delete or backspace. You've cleared your model. What we want to do is load in a model of Johnstone that, as I say, New Practice have already created for you to use. So we're going to use one of the tools on the right hand side here, and we're going to use this third one down, which looks like 3 cubes stacked on top of one another, which is called the components tool. So if we click on that, it'll come up at the top here with the components menu. And what we can do is search 3D Warehouse. So 3D Warehouse is basically an online database of thousands and thousands of different models that different SketchUp users all around the world have made already. So almost anything you can think of. If you want to find a 3D model of a car, or if you want to find a 3D model of a building in a city that you live in, chances are lots of it's already going to be in 3D Warehouse already. So we've created a model, so we've called it a corner for Johnstone. So you can search in the 3D Warehouse. So we're going to search a corner for Johnstone, and you hit enter to search, and it will come up with two options. There's another model that someone else has created, which I think is a factory building, but we're going to want to pick the first one, which is called a corner for Johnstone, and you can tell it's our one because it's by New Practice. So when you click, it'll load, so it'll quickly download the model, and if you click anywhere on the screen, that'll basically drop the model into your 3D model. So you can see we've got our person here, they're 1.75 meters tall, but this model we just dropped into the model is kind of one-to-one real world scale, so it's obviously a lot bigger than our small person here. So we're going to want to zoom right out, and you can see that we've got a block of the Johnstone site, and you can see all of the buildings surrounding the site. You can see our gable end and our steel structure on one side. So if we zoom in a bit, we can see that we've got the corner, we've got High Street running along here, Macdowell Street running along here, but we've also dumped in a couple of different items that help to orientate yourself and to give you a little bit of instructions. So when you first load in your model, you'll see that there's an instruction card here. So we can zoom in a bit and read this. So before we start to model in SketchUp, it's important to think about what ideas you have and what important things there are to consider when creating a design concept. So there are a number of questions you might want to consider to help you develop ideas for your design. So what could the installation be made out of? How tall might it be? How would you make sure that it's safe for people who are walking by it? What colours or textures might you include? So before you start to model in SketchUp, you might want to get some pen and paper and sketch some ideas out to kind of play around with ideas, see what feels like interesting ideas to explore. And then when you've created some ideas on paper, you can delete this instruction card and start to create a 3D model in the design area below. So you can see below, we've created this outline shape in red here. Renfrewshire Council are really interested in creating a shape, an installation that makes this space nice and secure for passers-by, makes it a bright and colourful and more representative of the town. We don't intend to create any design elements actually in the site itself, so the focus of this design challenge is to think about what you can do around the perimeter of your site. So we can go back, if we zoom back up to our instruction card, so you can find step-by-step guides on how to create your model on the project website. So once we've finished making this live stream video, we're going to turn it into some tutorial videos on the website. And once you're happy with your 3D model, you can share images of it with New Practice. So we're really interested in seeing what sorts of things that people come up with. So you can take screenshots through this SketchUp tool, and it'd be great if you were able to send us any screenshots or examples of the designs you've made to our email address, hello@acornerforjohnston.co.uk. Or if you use social media, if you're on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you could post images of your designs with the hashtag #acornerforjohnston. So we want to get into starting to have a go at putting some elements into the site. So when we talked about creating groups before, that was a useful start, because when you load in a model from the 3D warehouse, it's imported as one big group. So we want to break that up so that you can start to edit it. So you want to select the whole big shape as one big group, and if you right click anywhere on the model that's been imported and right click, it'll come up with this menu, and you want to hit explode. So that's basically the opposite of making a group. It takes everything that's in the shape and breaks it down into its constituent pieces. So we hit explode, and now you can see it's made into two shapes. So there's this one that's selected in red here, which is our site model. So this is all the real buildings in Johnstone that we've created in SketchUp. And then there's the second group, which has our instruction card, and it also has the design area. So once you've got some ideas about designs that you might want to try and experiment with, you can just simply hit delete, and you're left with an open site model for you to have as much kind of creative fun, go wild with your imagination. But remember that the focus is to try and create something bright, colourful, interesting, or exciting for this perimeter edge. So that's the main focus of where we want to invest all of the time and resource that we've got as part of this project. So let's have a go at creating some shapes on the site. So we might use the line tool. And just as a very quick example, I'm going to show you how you could draw something that maybe is a bit like a wall around the edge of the site. So you can go point to point around the edge of the site, and then you might want to give it a little bit of thickness, and then go back across the site. And when you're ready, you can click back on your original point, and what it's done there is create a flat surface. And again, you can use the push and pull tool, and there you've created an element. And you could give it a height. So we suggest that you probably don't want to make it much taller than 4 meters, and you can see down at the bottom right hand corner of the screen down here, it gives you an impression of how tall you're making something. But also you can type in a height manually. So say we wanted to make this exactly 4 meters, I can type 4, hit enter, and that will make that 4 meters tall. And again, we might want to select this and turn it into a group. So right click, make a group, and we might then want to give it a color. So we use the paint bucket tool, and let's maybe make this one like a lime green color. And then you can go around, you can maybe deselect, so click anywhere off the screen that's not got a model on it, and you can use the orbit tool, and you can look around. Now, as just a little critique of this very first design, I wouldn't score it too highly. It's not very interesting. It's not got fantastic. It's not fantastically interesting design. Also, it leaves these edges pretty much open for anyone to walk on site. So it's not very secure. It's not very interesting. I'm sure you'll be able to come up with lots more ideas. But just to wrap up with a kind of final point, as I said before, we're really excited to see what sort of creative ideas people come up with. So it would be great for people to to send us some example images of the ideas that they come up with. So what we want to do, well, first of all, we want to save our design so that you can come back to it later. So if we hit save, we're going to call this, if you hit save, it will ask you to put in a name for your models. We're going to call it idea 1. You hit OK. And what it might do, if you've connected your account to a Google account, after a minute or two, hopefully it will pop up with another window and it will suggest that you save your model on your Google Drive account. If you've not connected with a Google account, that probably won't come up. So I'm going to save it in this folder that I've got called SketchUp. So now that model's saved, and if I come back to the SketchUp website later, I'll be able to access it. But also, we're going to want to, if you can share screenshots of your designs with us, that would be really great. It would be fantastic for us to see some examples of things that people will come up with. So we can do that by using this little folder menu up here, and we want to export, use the export tool and save as a PNG. So a PNG is a type of image, so it's an image file format. So you can download, if you hit PNG, it'll take you to an export image window, and you can zoom around, get your shot nice and lined up exactly how you like it. I've gone inside a building, which isn't very helpful. So if I'm able to rotate a little bit, I can get my shot lined up just as I like it. So we're looking from a bit further down High Street, and then I can play around with, so that you could look at a view from the direct top or from different angles. And when you're ready, you hit export as PNG and hit continue, and it'll create a PNG, and it should save it to your downloads folder once that's ready. So then if you're able to email that or share it with us on social media, that would be really great. It will give us an opportunity to see all of the different creative ideas that people have. I hope that's been kind of useful. Like I say, remember to save your ideas, because when you log back in to the SketchUp website, you'll be able to go to this home panel and you'll see the models that you've created previously, and you can create lots of different versions if you've got lots of different creative ideas. But yeah, I hope that that was kind of informative. We'll break up this video into different kind of bite-sized tutorial elements, and you'll be able to replay it by visiting the YouTube link. And yeah, we're available for any questions at hello@acornerforjohnston.co.uk. And if you want to learn any more about the project, please do feel free to get in touch. acornerforjohnston.co.uk will be up and kind of promoting the project and giving information about what we're up to throughout the duration. So yeah, we really look forward to seeing what kind of creative ideas you come up with. And please do be in touch if you've got any more questions. And yeah, thank you very much, and take care and keep safe while everything's kind of a little bit unusual.